So today we're here with Victoria Birkbeck, the board president of the Dill Pickle Food Co-op, and we're here today to learn a little bit more about Victoria and the role she plays on our board of directors. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem. It's fun to talk to you. I don't know. I feel so fancy.
We're in the dungeon here, so
Yeah, I think you need a backdrop or something. We should work on that.
we're figuring that out. We're in the
Yeah.
process. Yeah, but it'll do for now.
Yeah. It's
All right.
authentic.
Exactly. We're telling the truth.
Yep.
So, can you describe your personal journey so far?
Whoa.
We're going deep here.
Whoa. I was, just for everyone's notice, I was not given the questions in advance. I want to pretend I'm on Oprah. Yeah, my personal journey so far. Okay, so I was born in San Diego, spent most of my life raised in Indiana, about 3 hours from here. I have a really great family that I have a really good relationship with, but I was raised in a really conservative town that was always a little bit difficult for me, and frankly over the last few years has not improved. I won't name it here, but
Okay.
if you know, you know. I mean, it's in Indiana, okay?
Right.
It's in
We know.
Indiana. Yes, we all know. I was raised quite religious. I actually went to a religious college. So, in many ways, I actually was I was a conservative child, if that, is a thing. And so I would say a big turning point for me was when I was about maybe 23 and I started to really question the religion I was raised in and realize some pretty harmful things about it. It's a pretty homophobic religion. I didn't really understand myself to be a gay person until I was a bit older, just because I was so in that environment. It was a real case of not being able to imagine something that you don't see in your life. So yeah, that was a really big kind of moment for me in my life when I decided to really leave the community that I was raised in a big way. That was very severed a lot of relationships and connections and had me in a lot of ways starting over in my early 20s.
Like a rebirth.
Which was, yeah, it was a bit of a rebirth situation. So yeah, you find me now at having lived in Chicago for 5 years. Been with my partner Heather for 3 years, and definitely it hasn't always been easy living here, but it's been a great place where we've really, both of us, she also comes from a conservative town in Michigan, and so we have some things in common there. And both of us just feel really comfortable in our own skin in Chicago in a way that we never have been able to in the places where we were raised. And yeah, so, I wouldn't go so far as to say we're living happily ever after, because there is still stuff. And it has not been a good, last 18 months, as people may be aware. But we feel really, really fortunate.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So what is the role of a co-op board president, and what is your leadership style?
Yeah, so actually, specifically at the Dill Pickle, this has been something we've really been working on in the last 2 years. When I took over, the board in the last few years has experienced a lot of burnout, because for a volunteer commitment, the Dill Pickle has been pretty emotionally taxing, time consuming. And so for something that people are doing while they have other jobs, kids, it's been a lot. And we kind of particularly were noticing that the board had been in a pattern of really overloading, particularly whoever was the president. It was something that Celeste and I worked on a lot together, was to kind of try to change that dynamic, to spread the board work more evenly among the members, to not, I think whoever ends up being the president usually is somebody, pretty committed to the co-op, been involved for a while, and they may be the kind of person who has a tendency to just say, like, I'll just do that. So yeah, I've actually been resisting that impulse a lot and kind of trying to keep really clear boundaries on, like, what am I going to do? What are we all going to share? And it's been very interesting. So primarily my leadership style is it's actually ended up being pretty administrative. I've worked a lot on making sure our board meetings are productive and useful for all of us, that they're, planned in plenty of time, well organized. All that sounds boring. I find it exciting. I think that we've made like huge progress over the last year, and that's in terms of like just the quality of our meetings, and that has really helped us. We're not a perfect group of people, but I have really seen in the last year how it is very hard for a co-op to function well without clear leadership from the board. Like, the GM really needs to know what the board's priorities are, what they want. It's very difficult with a group of 9 people to arrive at that consensus, and we're trying to not have it be a situation where she's just getting 9 different people's opinions.
Right.
And that requires, it's confusing, it doesn't work. So that requires us to have really good relationships with each other, the ability to like compromise and talk things through and agree. I think we're getting a lot better at that. It's something we want to continue to strengthen. But I've really seen how much it's pretty essential for a well-run co-op. The GM should not be guessing what the board might want. So yeah, I mean, it's been a journey.
I used to be on the board in
Yes.
2016, so
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the evolution. No, and I've attended a few board meetings where you've been the president, and I've noticed how much concise and shorter the board meetings are. I would be at a board meeting for 3 hours, 3.5 hours. I think 2 hours is what you have brought them down to. That's great.
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely pros and cons, right? Like, I often feel we could talk longer, but, and I hope that, like, I encourage everybody to have conversations like throughout the co-op about there's so many things.
To address 3 hours
but
not enough time.
Exactly. But it's also part of the idea of not burning out the board is like, okay, let's make this a sustainable time commitment for people, because I do think that you're going to have a better board if the board work is doable for people. You don't want to only have people who have endless time.
You want to split that work up in increments.
Exactly.
Like mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, that leads me to my next question. What are some of the biggest challenges you see in terms of running a co-op?
Running a business is very hard. And I would say, I don't know if it's all co-ops, but at the Dill Pickle, like, we're all very creative, idealistic people, but that often comes up against how will we pay the bills? And yeah, and I think I won't say all of us, because I think that actually we do have some people who are sort of passionate about like good finances, but many of us, I think, sort of hate that. And I do not really come to this with any kind of business background. I have done a pretty major crash course in the last 1.5 years about the grocery industry, and like I really couldn't read financial statements when I started, and I have learned how. I cannot imagine anything else that would have convinced me to do that. It is so boring, and I don't like it. So yeah, so that's just a big challenge, is like finding a way to have a sustainable business, but also allow for that like creativity and that idealism. I just think like it's a tough moment with the capitalism. I don't know if you've noticed, but capitalism, man.
It rules.
It rules. And there's been many grocery co-ops that are sort of our ancestors in a way were just operating in a very different environment where it was possible to make a higher margin on grocery. Yeah, and I've actually, because this is what I think about now, I was thinking today about, I was reading an article about a big influx of grocery delivery apps, and I was thinking, like, are we in another moment where the grocery industry changes, and how will we adapt to that? Yeah, but at the same time, I always kind of ask myself, like, well, why are we in grocery? And it is like the way that the largest number of people connect with the food system of this country and most countries. And so it is like, I do think it's a very important place to continue to try to offer alternatives and like resist that capitalist takeover.
Exploitation, yes.
We're swimming upstream, and that takes a lot of energy.
It's worth it though in the long run.
Yeah. But that's very much where there's many facets of co-ops. That's where my mind is right now. But
you speak the truth.
I have to tell it how it is.
Well, going a little lighter here, what day of the week would best describe your personality and why?
See, I'm very tempted to immediately go for my favorite day of the week, which is Sunday. But is it my personality? But I have to say, yes, I think perhaps I'm my truest self on Sundays. No, there's a lot of bad things about the religion I was raised with. However, it did involve, we never shopped on Sundays. And there was a lot of things we didn't do on Sundays. And I've actually been able to sort of retain that pattern in a useful way in my life, where it is very much a day of rest for me. Sundays are kind of all about whatever I want to do. And they're as you know, and honestly, I've hated this during the pandemic, the way that there's many great things about technology, but it does allow life to blend. There's very few boundaries in a lot of people's lives. I have a lot of friends who are always checking email, always taking work calls. Not I. Not I.
Boundaries are strong.
I am very intense about boundaries, and Sundays are kind of the biggest one of all, where I'm just like, nothing's going to interfere with Sunday. When people try to schedule things on Sunday, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Don't do it. And actually, I guess I am grateful though, because I was actually a flight attendant up until the pandemic caused some problems with that. So I didn't always have them off. So that was, it's something I'm grateful for now, that I am able to rely on my day of rest.
That's cool. I didn't know that you were a flight attendant.
Yeah, little known secret. Not really, but.
Okay. And so my last question, as you go for re-election for president, how would you assess your first term?
Well, it's been a short term. I was actually appointed to the board to fill a vacancy. So it's only been, it only have been about half of what a full term is.
Which is 3 years, correct?
Right, 3 years. So I've done about a year and a half, or will have by the time we hit election season. I would say I am very proud and satisfied with a lot of what I and the board have been able to do. I have, I don't know. It's a very difficult moment for the Dill Pickle, as you are no doubt aware. So it does feel a bit strange to be in that position, but also be like, I'm happy with it. But it's true. I do feel that we're communicating a lot better. I feel that we're getting things done. I feel like we are moving in the direction we need to move. I wish that some of the changes we need to make could happen faster, but I also just think that's life.
That's democracy.
That's democracy. That's people. Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, so the reason that I would like to run for re-election is that I feel that we have created a good foundation, and that with more time, I could really solidify what I've started with the board, my passion. And actually, I didn't really show up intending to become the president of the board, as often happens with these things. My primary interest is actually in helping owners get more engaged with the co-op and having more of a community. I have found, as recent boards have found, that if your finances are in a bad state, it's a little bit like first aid. You have to stop the bleeding first, as difficult as that is. So my hope is that our efforts to stabilize the financial situation will pay off. My hope is that our efforts to stabilize the financial situation will pay off, and I will have more time and energy to devote to bringing in owners. We have a lot of ideas in the owner linkage committee about. I see the Dill Pickle as having the potential to be a place of organization within the community. The way I sometimes think of it is like right now and in the past year, we have had to be looking very much inward because of the problems that we're having. If we can be in a stable place, we can begin to look outward and talk more about like, how can we be a source of strength in this community, a place where people with similar values can meet each other, organize with each other. And, it's not that we've never done that, but I would very much like for that to be more of our focus and more of our work. So, and then in terms of just the board workload, my intention is to progressively make my job easier every year. So I'm optimistic, and I'd really like to continue that work. So
It's a great
wish
goal.
me luck.
Yeah, I wish you all the luck, Victoria.
Thank you.
Well, that's the end of my questions.
Awesome.
If you'd like to add anything, now is the time.
I don't think so. I would just, I love the Dill Pickle. It drives me crazy sometimes, but I think that that's always part of community organizations. I've really met so many wonderful people through it. And, it's really just a source of a lot of creativity and energy in my life. If occasionally, a little much. I've really, yes, but I've really enjoyed what I've done so far. And, whether I'm reelected to the board or not, I definitely, will always be available to the institution to provide whatever talents I have. So, yeah. And I'm happy we could talk today.
Same. I learned so much.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I feel like I should interview you. Should we plan other interviews?
Yes. We're going to be interviewing the whole board.
That's awesome.
Or I will be. My next member up is Peter Frank.
I love Peter. He's great. Stay tuned for Peter, everybody. He has a lot of interesting experience and is a real asset to our board. I don't have favorites, but we have a great board, honestly.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have.
I have to go back to work. Are you sure you don't want to ask me another question so I don't have to go back to work? No, just kidding.
We'll plan another one. We'll plan another one.
No, I'm okay. I don't need that much spotlight. Okay. It was good talking to you today, though.
Well,
I hope you have a good
Victoria.
birthday. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.